Culture isn't the Christmas party that happens once a year. Culture is the one thing that happens every day. The seeing the team once a week down in the shop. The going out and supporting during the event with the workplace services team who's on site.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Colbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Colbert. Today's guest brings a unique blend of hands-on technical expertise and strategic leadership to the world of facilities management. His career began in the trades, working across HVAC, electrical, and controls technician roles, where he earned his journeyman electrical license. After completing his MBA, he stepped into facilities management and expanded his leadership across multiple teams and multiple sites, supporting industries that include pharmaceutical R&D, commercial alcohol distribution and manufacturing, and Class A office environments. His expertise working with both union and non-union teams has shaped a collaborative approach to team building and operations. He is the Regional Director of Facilities for ESFM. Max Young, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay. Happy to be here.
Well, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate you investing it with us today.
Well, I mean, I feel like you guys have a kind of a unique spin that you don't get the chance to see for the operations teams out there. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I feel like you guys are offering a unique window into a world that most people don't know about unless you're in the trenches with us.
Well, those are kind words, Max. I really appreciate it. And that's actually the foundation of why we do it too. It's really like bring this to the forefront, because when things are running well, I really don't hear about operations or facilities or anything, right?
No.
Something breaks, you hear right away.
Yeah. From everyone, usually. Yeah.
So with your, like everything we just went through, you were working with the tools, now you're leading teams, with all of your experience, what's been your biggest lesson learned?
I think, when I first came into the industry, I feel like most people that, I'm going to have to know every single system. I'm going to have to know how a building operates. I'm going to have to know how to do, efficiency calculations. And I think in the grand scheme of things, I think after the time I've spent, I'm amazed at how much of it is actually just making connections with the people, with the associates, with your employees, and knowing that it's okay not to know everything. And in some cases, it's actually better for the team if you don't know everything, and you have an opportunity to lean on and work with that team and build that team. And give everybody a chance to shine. And that really in the facilities operations world, it's about kind of being a connector more than anything else, and about kind of leading by showing that anybody can lead in the team.
I love that. Yeah, it's true. You hear it a lot, but it's true that the team it's just all about the people. Without the people, it just doesn't click and it doesn't work. So love that. Speaking of people, different roles, like there's something we touched on before, and that was navigating the multiple cultures that make up an operations team. Is that something you can just expand on for us a bit, Max?
Yeah, sure. Like for me, that whole people connection, once you kind of get to a point where you're spending a lot of time maybe staring at a BMS or an Excel sheet for most of the day, which of course is something you all have to do eventually if you get up, high enough, if you're lucky enough, right? But the further away you get from, the boots on the ground, the teams that are, maybe greasing the motors and the soft service personnel. I think it distracts. I think it takes away from your ability to kind of understand and empathize with your team. Team culture is a big thing for me. People and making those connections, like I referenced at the beginning. For me, it's always funny that everyone's always talking about culture, and culture isn't the Christmas party that happens once a year. Culture is the everyday, the one thing that happens every day. The seeing the team once a week down in the shop. The going out and supporting during the event with the workplace services team who's on site. And for me, Jay, like each one of those has their own little subculture. Like your culture is just not one culture. You might have groups of friends that are on the team that they're their own little subculture. But I find every team, has a grouping of subcultures. So you have the engineers, right, which is a subculture down in the shop. You have the janitorial staff, which is a subculture unto itself. You have if you have an AV team, usually they're their own little subculture, and so are the operations and the management team. And to me, as an operations and facilities guy, person, you are going to have to dip in each one of those pools, understand them, empathize with those employees if you can. And I think you end up with a better team, a little more respect, hopefully, and people who understand that you're there for them, and that you acknowledge, and kind of, you've walked in their shoes a little bit sometimes if you have, but talking to them, about the stuff that is their day to day, and to me, those cultures, those little cultures are just as important as the large culture. As a matter of fact, they make up the larger culture that is your team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, I mean, selfishly for me, I think it is about people, like I said, in that first question that you had asked. One of the unique opportunities I had is I came up, I put tools in the hands, and, I did some HVAC, I did some electrical, I did some facilities work, on the BMS side and on the control side. And so I feel like I'm uniquely, positioned, so I can go down to the shop, and I can talk to the guys in the shop. And I mean, let's be honest, I'm going to use a different lexicon. I'm gonna use a different demeanor when I'm down in the shop than if I'm with my janitorial team, than when I'm, up in a conference room meeting with the client or meeting with some of the management team. And I feel like you have to understand. I mean, and you can work towards it if you've been there. Like myself, you can empathize a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't get there, if you've never done those things before. But I think letting the people know who you work with, that, I've been there, I've done that. Yeah, I know that really sucks. Like that, like that happens sometimes, like, yeah, I know what you're working on today. It's like, that stinks, and giving them an opportunity to talk about it, and vent maybe a little bit, or give them some advice. But, putting yourself in their shoes for a little bit, and understanding, what they're going through, and their day to day, I think builds a better team, and gives you an opportunity to connect with each one of those associates on a different level.
There was a lot there, and it was such a great walkthrough of culture and subculture and team. And you mentioned twice, maybe three times, empathy, empathizing. And I believe that's huge as well. And when you can authentically do that the way you've been able to, that's powerful. It's meaningful. It's not powerful. It's meaningful, right?
Yeah, it doesn't count if you're not genuine. Usually, if you're not genuine, people see through that stuff, right?
Right.
If you genuinely care about your folks, I think it comes across, and I think they want to talk to you about stuff. They don't want to have you separated from them. If you're gonna be that person, that connector that's in between, kind of leading from the front and showing everybody you can walk down to the shop, and hang out with the guys or gals down there in the shop, and then come back up in the office and jump back on your Excels.
Mm-hmm. I want to follow up with a question about your transition too, Max,
Yeah,
about,
sure.
you had the tools, now you're in the office. And I'll quickly share, a friend and customer of mine acquired a new department. He's in defense contracting in facilities, and
Hmm.
he worked the floor for 30 days. His boss said, "What are you doing?" He said, "How can I possibly lead this team if I don't work with them and
Love
understand what
that.
they do every day?" Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. Yeah.
and that's really what I hear you that's what I hear you saying too.
Yeah, look, everybody's got their angle, right? And that angle, this isn't a bad thing. This isn't saying I'm working angles. The fact of the matter is that I can empathize with someone who's done certain types of work because I've come up through the trades, and I can see from their point of view, and
Hmm.
I've used that, and I've leveraged that experience, and how I deal with those folks to go chat with, say, my audio video team. Have I ever come up to an audio video? No. Have I wired a bunch of stuff in an auditorium? Yeah, but it gives you that kind of, a pathway, to meet them on their grounds, in their subculture, and empathize where you can, with what they're doing day to day.
Can you say a little bit more about what you mean by subculture?
So, yeah, I mean, look, everybody talks about culture. We got to change the
Right.
culture, or this is our culture. And to me, like I had said earlier, it's not two or three big parties a day. It's to me, it's the everyday. What's it like coming in, and saying hi to everybody? How was the weekend? Kind of stuff like that. It's
Mhm.
just like kind of a vision. One of the comical things that I've kind of said is, be the weather. Like,
Mm.
can I come in and embody what I want my culture to be? Can I come, I can come in grumpy. I could have had a bad weekend. I could be super tired, but the fact of the matter is people are going to read that on you. Right. And, I learned from a good friend at AstraZeneca, actually, Richie Marinelli. Hopefully I can name drop here.
Of course.
He's retired now, but, I remember saying to him, I was like, Richie, dude, you're always happy. You're literally, and this is when I was a tech. I was like, you're always happy. He's like, yeah, I choose to be happy. I choose to come in, and this is the face I want to show. And he probably wouldn't even remember this conversation. That's the craziest thing, when the stuff that has that impact. And for me, I was like, that's wild. And so when I became a manager, I was like, you know what? I'm going to come in. I'm going to be the weather. I'm going to come in a happy person. Comically, I say happy Monday to people, and I say happy Tuesday to people, and I say happy Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to people. To me, it's kind of just a little start off the day from yeah, yeah. It can be whatever you want it to be. Something's going to be broken. God, it's the facilities world. Something's
Hmm.
multiple things are broken at all times. Um, how we deal with it, and our, the position we take, we can complain about it, or we can laugh about it, and go on with our day. So one of those, catchphrases, and I don't say it, ever, but I try to, when I can, embody, be the weather for my staff, for my employees, lead from the front, from the standpoint of laugh it off. It doesn't mean you don't have opportunities for your team to, vent, and ideally some opportunities for you to vent, because that makes you human, right? But look, you have the opportunity to frame how your day, how you view it. It's still the same stuff. You can be super pissed off about it, or you can be you can just roll with the punches and say, hey, look, it's just another happy Tuesday, and rock and roll. And I think trying to be that person, and again, you have to try every day. This isn't something that, it's something you ever get, like, you finish. It's just, you have to
Hmm.
try to be that person. At least that's how I, approach, the staff, and how I come in every day.
I love that story about the gentleman from AstraZeneca because it's and like you said, he may not even remember that, but the impact that it's had on you and ultimately your team and everyone you work with because of it,
Hmm.
how could you measure that ripple effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic and a great mindset you have because you're right. You can look at what's the saying, right? The glass is half full or half empty. Well,
Yeah,
let's
but I
you know,
guess, yeah.
there's a certain amount in there. Let's look at it the
Right.
way it makes it positive.
Yeah.
Um, I want to jump back to your transition a little bit from role to role to role, because for those listening, like if they're in the middle of it or if they're thinking about doing something like you've done,
Hmm.
what were maybe some of the challenges that you faced,
Sure.
in transition from one role to another and what you had to do or learn or become?
Yeah. I mean, uh, really easy. I mean, look, every change, every time there's an opportunity to do something new, whether it's a project, or whether you're going to jump from HVAC to electrical, which is what I did, from electrical to systems management, and then eventually to facilities management. Everybody's always scared, right? Change offers the opportunity to fail. It offers the opportunity to feel a little lost, and have to start over. The dreaded start over. Um, I think for me, I had the super benefit of having, I guess, a family that, was always asking me what was next, so to speak. My mom and dad. My mom famously, said I could be, I wanted to be an auto mechanic when I was in high school, right? And she said, you could be an auto mechanic after you get your college degree. And I was like, fine, I'll show you. I'll go get I'll go get a college degree, and I'll be an auto mechanic. And, ironically, what I spent the most time afterwards was getting my electrical license. And of course, then ended up getting my MBA, and then moving into facilities management. But I think every time you think of that job transition, there's the fear, it's just the
Hmm.
general fear everybody has. Um, and I think what you have to do is you just have to do it, this isn't a Nike commercial. This isn't a just do it. The fact of the matter is, you're supposed to be scared. If you're not scared taking on something new, there might be something wrong with you. I would say that you might be a little overconfident. I think it's a rational and reasonable, approach to have some fear with that. But I think the goal is to do it anyway. And, for me, it's just always been growth. Probably like most, operations and facilities people, a little on the ADHD spectrum, probably massively. And so So occasionally you get bored with some stuff, you learn it. Maybe you didn't master it, but you're just looking for that new challenge. And I think for me, I was just always looking for something new, to, that, that hill to climb. And for me, it was more of a natural, progression between, harder and harder and bigger things. And I remember I wanted to get into facilities, and I had a friend. He's a director over at Vertex now, and he famously said, he's like, "Look, dude, they're just bigger houses. I was
Mhm.
wiring houses at the time. It's just a big house." And while that is a wild oversimplification of a lab R&D building, the fact of the matter is the principles for dealing with problems, and the issues that happen, it really is. It's just magnified, right? But but I was blessed by having people behind me that were just always wondering what I was going to do, and anytime I brought it up, they'd be like, "Hey, you should totally go for that. You should totally do that." And they pushed me. So I have to thank mom and dad for constantly asking me what was going to be next. And then for anybody out there thinking about moves, it's not going sometimes it's not fun, sometimes it's not
Mhm.
easy, and if you're scared, it's normal. And you take the step anyway. Um, you know, it's kind of how I ended up here. Yeah.
I think it's great. And just your demeanor, you're making my day better. I'll tell you that right now. Not that it wasn't good already. Now it's even better than it was. So I
Thanks.
think you should give some classes or speeches to those who may not have that viewpoint, because it's really it's outstanding. And by the way, ADHD is a superpower. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
again.
it can be. Yeah.
Mhm.
When leveraged correctly. I agree. Yes.
Hey, rock stars. If you're tuning into the podcast and are feeling overwhelmed by all the maintenance demands at your facility, don't stress. We've got you covered. Our sponsor, Coludis, is your go to partner to help you tackle all those demands and get them done right, on time, and with top notch quality. From project planning to execution, Coludis is there to make hard work easy. Visit coludis.com today to get started. Talk about a little bit, and thank you, by the way, for walking us through. That was really
Yeah.
helpful. What about one of the biggest challenges you've faced now that you've kind of laid out your team, your culture, your mindset, and the way you view things? Tell us about like one of the biggest challenges that your team, in any stage of your career here, what did you face, and how'd you deal with it?
I feel like, honestly, the biggest issue in facilities, isn't the building, usually isn't the system. It's your staff, right? And I say that from a standpoint of, I always had an issue with reviews, right? I felt like you think you're doing well. And what generally there's like one review you have at the end of the year, right? And one of the things I started to do, because I felt like, there's a lot to squeeze into an annual review. And even if you're doing biannuals, that was tough. So for me, what I kind of tried to do is, if I had new employees, or they're new with me, or I feel like there was a lot going on, um, I felt like I had to put myself in a better position to communicate how I felt like they were doing, so that I didn't have that burden at the end of the year when doing performance management, that I would start doing quarterly reviews with people. And what this meant is I ended up with a lot of time with some of my staff. And the reason why I did that was so that, I used to say to them, I was like, look, if we get to December and we have your final meeting, and there's anything that comes out of my mouth that you don't agree with, then somebody was not paying attention in the 3 meetings we had before this, right? And I felt like it was doing a service to both me and my associates, because what it did was it put them in a position where they always knew where they stood. And it
Mm.
put me in a position where I was always, communicating to them. I said, okay, this is the stuff you need to work on. This is great. Thank you. Keep up the good work. But this is some of the stuff you need to work on. And maybe it's closing your work orders on time. Maybe it's, delivering your SOPs when I ask for them. You're late all the time. We'd never get to the end of the year and they would be confused about where they stood. And for me, that took all the stress for me for about the end of the year conversations right out of it. And going back to people, like I said, I do firmly believe, that you're trying to build a good team. These are all individuals that you I'm serving these people, right? They're my customers, like, right? I'm working for my staff. That's kind of how I look at it. I want to be their cheerleader. I want to be the person that lifts them up. I don't want to be the person that tears them down. And so I want to put them in a position for success. And look, the byproduct is I don't have to do as much of work at the end of the year. Everybody's on the same
Hmm.
level because they know where they stood. And look, do I do that all the time? I don't do that all the time. Certain employees you don't have to. Certain employees, that are on your team, you meet with so often that you basically are doing reviews like weekly,
Mm.
right? Because you're just giving them feedback constantly. And some people need to hop back on quarterlies, right? Which is just a way to, in my mind, manage your staff so that, again, you are setting them up and setting yourself up for success because you're opening up those lines of communication formally on a regular basis. So I guess the hardest part for me was, and everybody probably says it's managing people, right? What's the hardest thing? It's managing people. And for me, that's getting as much time with them as possible, letting them know that you are there for them. You're genuinely there to, as I always tell, the people who are my direct successors, my job is to get you to replace me.
Mm.
So you step into my shoes. If I leave, the place is fine. If my growth path is taking me somewhere else, you can jump into the seat, right?
Hmm.
Um, so, it's an easy way to build succession planning into that as well. But again, the hardest part was managing people, and that's kind of how I dealt with it. Yeah.
I think it's great. I like it for so many different reasons. And one, like I would imagine, well, first off, the workload at the end of the year would task you heavily, right, to get everything done. And I would imagine the quality couldn't be quite at the quarterly level because you could, it's a lot more work to do. Maybe it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. Um, but what did you find that it was constantly raising performance? Because I would imagine someone knows something's off. Now they can course correct much quicker.
Yeah, I think it gives me an opportunity to be real and honest with people up front. At the I need you to take this on. I don't have room for this. I need you to take this on. That's not a wait till the end of the year and be like, look, you weren't proactive. You didn't take on opportunities when they arose. It's also being real that, your employees can't read your mind, like and neither should they have to. So like that put me in a position where we were just having those conversations. And keep in mind, we're not setting these up as formal reviews, Jay. Like I set them up as conversations. I'm like, okay, where you sit on your goals. You came up with your goals this year. Are you in a good spot with them? Are you behind on them? Have you done them at all? Uh, which is a conversation that happens a lot, right? And it's there's your friendly reminder that that's you need to do that by the end of the year.
I mean, this conversation around people in general is so critical, and you're bringing a lot of good things to the forefront here. So please, yes, keep going.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
You touched on them stepping into your shoes for whatever the reason may be, and succession planning. And can you expand on that a little bit more, like succession planning
Yeah.
and what
I
it
mean,
looks like for you?
sure. Yeah, yeah. I'll jump into that. Right now I work for ESFM. Previously I did a small stint with CBRE, so I have worked for some contract labor. I've also worked in-house with AstraZeneca and with MS Walker. So I've been on both sides of the fence. I feel like when you end up in contract labor a little bit, there's a little more of a push for succession planning. They're looking for churn because they want to kind of build managers, build leaders. I think people who are good, they want to move around or have them build experience, ensure they don't get bored.
Hmm.
But ultimately, I mean, here's the tough part is even though I might want everybody to have a growth trajectory and I might want everybody to be the best person they can be, and to me that might mean that they're going to be like a director of facilities one day. Some people don't want to become a director of facilities, and that's completely fine. For me, what I usually do when I'm having conversations with my folks is I bring up succession planning and their goals with where they want to go immediately. You can probably talk to my staff, and one of the things I famously say to all of them is, um, you know, where do you want to go? Let me know where you want to go, and I am here to help you get there. And I mean that, and usually I try to repeat that a lot so that they understand that if that means their growth trajectory takes them out from underneath me, maybe to another account, that
Hmm.
that is still my job. my job is to cultivate and ensure that you are you know getting the experiences and the growth that you're looking for. And so for me, I grab it immediately. And I say, well, we're just going to deal with it immediately. Let's
Mhm.
pretend you're leaving anyway. You're going to become an FM. There's not a room for an FM here. It might mean you're at a different account. Maybe you're coming up from an FM to a director. You're going to replace me. I'm going to jump to another account. We're just going to go ahead with the assumption that you want to grow and this is the path forward for you. And for me, I try to set up their goals from a standpoint of, okay, you have goals. We have stuff we need to do here. Well, we have some projects we're going to take care of. We have some efficiencies we're looking for. But what are we doing for you? What are we doing for you? What's your
Mhm.
next step? What's the certification you're looking for? What's a stretch goal you're looking to include? What's some additional tasks that you want to take on? Do you want to be an FM? Do you want to be an AFM? Do you want to be a facilities coordinator if you're a tech? And I like to lay that out immediately so that they know that, again, I'm their cheerleader, I'm their champion, I'm here to push them in that direction. Um, but if they don't want to do that, I'm not gonna force them to do that.
Mhm.
So I also, selfishly, I want if I was to, still be interested in growth, which I think I still am. I want to make sure that I'm leaving my account or my employer in a good spot with someone who can step into the position and ensure that the building and the operation is being run correctly. That's just trying to be realistic with stuff. Um, but I feel like I just start with it. It's part of their goals. It's part of their review. What are we doing? Is this still what we're looking for? Are we
Mhm.
on the right trajectory for that? And then again, how can I help you get there? Because that's all I can do is I can help. I can't make it happen for you. You have to make it happen yourself, but I can
Mhm.
certainly help line stuff up for you.
Absolutely fantastic because I think what often gets overlooked is assuming or the question it isn't asked is what do you actually want? Do you want to be that director of
Right. Yeah.
facilities? Or maybe you don't want that. And sadly, more often than not, that doesn't even get asked. It's assumed that everyone wants to climb
Right.
that ladder, right, in this
Hmm.
manner. And then the other distinction you made was what I heard you say was like, even if it's not on your team, you still have their best interest in mind. They might go somewhere totally different, but you're clear on it, and it's helping both you, your team, and them. Is everything I just got
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, look, what's best for my team is what's best for me.
right?
That's the messaging. You getting better is just good for me. It's good for everybody in the grand scheme of things. People are going to come and go. Does it mean
Hmm.
you end up with a vacancy because of it? Then yeah. Is your theory that if you hadn't had that conversation, you never would have had that vacancy? Like, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the person who's like, yep, they left, they took a larger role, we have an opportunity. Now we have a space. Maybe somebody can slide into that in our current location. And when that does happen, it's great.
Fantastic. I now, based on everything we've discussed, I think I could answer this
Oh, okay.
without you actually answering it. But what do you love most about your role and why?
Um, I'm probably going to say impacting people.
Mm.
I comically, my wife hates when I say this when people ask what I do for a living. I say I fix broken stuff over at a building, and the fact of the matter is that's what we do, right? We fix broken stuff. That's
Mm.
the one of our main things. But honestly, I do truly enjoy seeing people, take on the responsibilities and grow. And I do it selfishly, right? Because it makes me feel good. Like it's
Mhm.
the fact that I can help somebody get to the next level. There are plenty of people who there's a laundry list of people that are the reason why I am where I am. And if I can be just, one of those people in a list for somebody else on their career, there's not a ton I can do, in the grand scheme of things. If I can affect that, that's one of the things I'm trying to affect. So you're probably right. Yeah, trying my damnedest, so to speak, to to support, be a cheerleader, be a championing for my folks, and help them grow.
Fantastic, fantastic. What advice would you give someone in your role somewhere else or a similar role, Max?
Look, this is stuff. I mean, I honestly, the reason. I bring up culture and people is because I think that's one of the things that I do well. Hopefully my team would say that. Um, but ultimately, I mean, everybody's built a little differently. So I think that um, ideally do what you're good at, right? Is one of those things that I would tell everybody. But to me, if there's one thing I could say, it would be just listen, you know? And by that I mean don't wait to talk. Like go down and get to know your employees. We have these conversations. If you guys have all been to the not the trade shows, but the team building events where they say learn three things about your employees, right? The comical thing is, if you go and talk to your employees enough, you're gonna learn way more than that anyway, right? What's the goal when they're telling you to do that? They're just telling you to engage. They're telling you to listen, and kind of approach it from the standpoint that you have a bunch of individuals that are working for you, and each one of those individuals has their own stuff they're going through, and you don't know what they're going through. And to me, trying to listen and trying to at least approach it from a standpoint of empathy and knowing that um look, some stuff might not change at work due to what you're going through, but it doesn't mean I can't be here to listen to you and empathize with you. And I think you'll end up being a better manager. The better you know your people, the better you try to ensure that they know you want to know them. I think the more successful you'll be. And yeah, I mean, I guess I guess my 2 cents. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if you don't get contacted. We'll get to contact info in a few minutes here, but with maybe some people that might want to come work with you.
Yeah.
No,
I
really.
mean, that
Yeah.
that would be great. We are hiring, so not
Excellent.
pushing. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to contact and all that, but what an amazing discussion about culture and succession planning and empathy and team building and just awesome. I'm so glad you came on the show and we ran through all of this, Max.
I'm happy I got a chance to at least kind of share my point of view on facilities. So thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Well, 100%. But before I'm you're not off the hook yet. I have another question for you. So
Okay, fire.
outside of the people and the culture here at work, like who is Max outside of work? Like
Oh,
you're not always doing, or maybe you are. I don't know.
so I
What do you
mean,
like to do?
I think comically, the handyman curse, right? When you're the handiest guy in your family, you do get the most calls to fix stuff. Look, on after doing my facilities management of my own home, right, and my parents' home and my family's home, um, I like to build stuff, at home. And comically, I've built a couple of boats previously. Nothing we take pictures of. Everybody just relax. Just but I truly like, and I think I like working with my hands. That's one of those things. Forever, I wasn't sure I ever wanted to sit in an office and peck away on a keyboard all day long because I got into facilities work because I like working with my hands and I like fixing stuff. I mean, you know, I comically laugh that electrical work is the most instant gratification work on the face of the planet. You install light and you literally within 3 seconds, you get to flip a switch and you get to see all of your hard work pay off. And I think I was enamored with that when I came up and I found electrical and controls work that the work you put in, you immediately get to see it um, working, helping, if it's fixed. And I like serving customers and stuff like that. So I still like doing that at home. I like to fix stuff. I like to work on stuff. I got a busted old tractor I do entirely too much work on that all my buddies give me crap for. But if I could break out the tools and wrench on it a little bit, it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah, it's
Now,
satisfying, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of that, love taking my beautiful wife out for a night out of town in Boston whenever we can. Enjoy some good food at some nice restaurants, and try not to look at code violations in the ceiling or anything like that, which happens a lot.
That is awesome. Man, what a pleasure. How would people get in touch with you, Max, if they would have
So
questions?
if they had questions they want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at max.young@compass-usa.com. You can hit me up there and you can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can look me up there as well. And I'm out there. You just look in Max Young and ESFM, and I might be one of two, so should be pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. Max, thank you again very much for investing your time with us. Like a really dynamic, awesome, important discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate the time. Facility Rockstars. This was a lot of fun. I'd recommend. So if you're out there, jump on it. Reach out to Jay.
Awesome. Thanks, man. And for everyone listening, I'm sure you learned a bunch today. I hope you were entertained as well. If you would like to reach out to Max, please do so. It's been another great episode of Facility Rockstars. We'll catch you next time. It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.